quiet my soul, 'cause you're teaching me how to slow down.
Good morning, River House family. It's Pastor Jamey here, and I just want to share with you today on the idea found in the book of Joshua, chapters 3 and 4, and it's the concept of stones of remembrance. And before we actually jump into that short little passage, I just wanted to share kind of how I've been playing this out lately and how God's been speaking to me. For those of you that are familiar with Facebook memories, you will see often when you log into Facebook, it will say on this day, and whether it's 2 years ago or 9 years ago, it'll show you a picture of a memory of some point in your life. And some of them are just from birthday parties or a family get together or just shot of the animals outside at our house on the farm. But other pictures, when I see them, it actually reminds me of the faithfulness and the goodness of God. And I'll just share a few of those with you. And then we'll do something together at the very end. So the first one is there's a picture that pops up in my Facebook timeline, and it's a picture of me and my grandma. And my grandma is now in heaven, but when I see that picture, there is something I remember. And what I remember is a story that she told me, and I even wrote it in my journal. That's probably why I remember it all these years later. But I remember when my grandma told me of a time that she only had 19 cents left in her checkbook if she were to write her tithe check. And she was teaching me on giving. And I said, so what did you do, Grandma? Did you write the check? And that would only leave you 19 cents for I don't know how much longer of a time period. And she said she wrote the check because she trusted the Lord. And the very next day, she said she got a check in the mail from somebody for $50, and it was just enough to pay for her groceries. And so that just reminds me of God's faithfulness when I see that picture of my grandma. So another one that pops up that's very meaningful to me is one of my friend's sons. He was a teenager, and he was in ICU, and he needed a liver and a kidney in order to live. And doctors had come in. He'd been waiting for an organ donor. And the doctors basically came in and told his parents, we don't think he's in good enough condition to get one. You're almost being inhumane by keeping him alive waiting for one. And I remember talking to Bob, and we were praying, and we really felt like the Lord said to believe for a miracle. And there's a picture that comes up where my wife's standing there, and she's holding the Bible, and she's reading God's word to Austin, who's hooked up to all these machines. His eyes are closed, and she's speaking life over him. And the fast forward to a very long story is Austin got his kidney, he got his liver, he graduated from high school, he's married today, and it was truly, truly a miracle. There's another picture that have been popping up actually just recently, 2 years ago at this time. We decided that Caleb felt like he was supposed to go, which is my son, go on the world race, which is like a missions trip for 9 months. It's called a gap year. The problem is it cost $15,800 to go on that trip, and I didn't know how we were going to do it when he said he wanted to go, but we trusted God, and we started doing fundraisers, hence all the pictures of coming up on my memories with us trying to campaign for money. But the week that the money was due, we were way short of our goal. And I remember going on a prayer walk with the Lord and asking him, like, why did you have him go on this if we're not even going to be able to do it? And 2 days later, we got an email from a donor, and somebody had given $10,000 in one shot to enable Caleb to go on to the world race. And so it was just, again, another reminder of the goodness and faithfulness of God. And then I'll end with this one before I ask you some questions, is one that came up just last past June. It's now my favorite memory. When it pops up, it'll come up again this June. And it's my family standing in front of a Welcome to Idaho sign as we were traveling here to come be a part of the River House team and family. And in that moment in time for me, I had just left a full-time job with benefits and was moving to a town I'd never been to. I had never met Pastor Jordan in person. It was a huge pay cut at that time. And it was the biggest step of faith I think our family's ever taken. And so we did it anyway, and we stepped out in faith. And can I just tell you, when I see that picture, how my heart just overflows with gratitude that God brought us here and how good he is. Today, I'm making more than I was when I left Arizona. God's blessed our business. He's blessed us at the church. I have insurance again. And then just the community that we're now a part of in River House. It's so amazing to see what God's done. And so when I see that picture, I remember God's goodness. And so I think the point is that all of us may be prone to forget things and not remember what God's done. And in the book of Joshua, Joshua led God's people towards their new home, and they had to cross the then Jordan River. And God did a miracle and parted the waters, and his people walked across onto dry land. To create a memorial of this miracle, God had them take 12 stones from the middle of the riverbed, and they stacked them on the other side. When others asked, "What do these stones mean?" God's people would tell the story of what God had done. And reminders of God's faithfulness can remind us to trust him for whatever we're going on in the present or what may come in the future. And I think today, in light of this whole COVID-19 quarantine and just where the world's at, I felt like the Lord said, today, have everybody take time and just remember. Get your eyes off the news media, get your eyes off your checkbook, get your eyes off of your problems. And would you just do me a favor today and pause and reflect on the goodness of God? I wrote down a couple of things that I would challenge you to do today in your devotional. Number 1, pause and remember how much he loves you. Number 2, pause and remember how much God cares for you. Number 3, pause and remember how faithful and good he's been to you. And number 4, remind yourself some of the ways he's answered prayer for you. Even if you want to, those of you that have kids, you may actually go get some stones and write on the stones just some testimonies, some answered prayers, the whole family, and then share them with each other and maybe leave them out on the table for the week so that you're just very mindful of what a good God we serve and how faithful he is. So I hope this devotional encourages you today to be remembering how good God is, how faithful he is, and what an amazing God we serve. And so I just love you all. Have a blessed week remembering the goodness of God.
'Cause you're teaching me